If you have a pattern, something that you feel stuck in, or perhaps you feel like you have a block, you've been trying to manifest something or create a transformation in your life, but it's just not happening. Well, you know what might help is a soul clearing or a past life clearing. And that is what we're going to be talking about on today's episode of the Charmed Life podcast with my special guest. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr, and this podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. Wow, we are in year what even? How do you do math? 7, I think? Maybe almost into year 8, which is fantastic because the Charmed Life podcast was born about 7 years ago. We went through a 7-year cycle and we're a whole new entity again. As you know, how there tends to be a whole 7-year cycle for us to renew our lives. And I'm just excited to be here with you. We are live broadcasting this on YouTube, Facebook, and some other places. And then, of course, you may be listening to it on the actual podcast feed. However, it is that you are coming in, we are so happy to connect with you and to resonate with you, creating this resonant container for us to explore. To get inspiration and, yeah, maybe create some transformation, which my guest is going to be here to help us explore and deepen in our experience and give us some tools for that as well. Now, I want to encourage you if you are on the live broadcast, I would love for you to actually drop some comments because we could see your comments wherever you're coming in. Tell us where you're coming in from. Let us know if you have any questions, anything you want us to expand on, because that makes the party super fun. And before I head in, I just want to remind you about a couple of things that I have in my world. And one of them is, and you guys see me looking to the side, you on the live broadcast, it's because I live produce this myself and I'm popping things in off the feed and I'm putting it in like that right there. And I have up here on the screen for the listeners, this is Sacred Sphere. It is my twice monthly live group meeting, a resonant container of sacred, spherical 360 work in intuition and manifestation. We have community. We are there to learn. So I do meditation, I do teaching, and then we go into breakout rooms and we practice techniques either in manifestation, or if you are a reader and a psychic reader or a channel and you want to practice something new, it is a beautiful and sacred community for that. So that's Sacred Sphere. Our next one is going to be in, well, it's going to be in January of 2024. But right now, you can actually get all of the recent classes on replay. Well, all of them, yeah, I think all of them are up there right now. And it's a beautiful membership and incredible community. So you are welcomed. Plus, a very, very high cost and low value offer that I have. It's a subscription, a membership. It's just $11 a month and it's called Modern Mystic Life. And every month I am doing a live group meditation. We just did it this week. It was amazing, but you get the replay on that. And then coming up next week, if you're listening to this within the time frame of December 2023, we have a live workshop where I will be channeling Archangel Uriel for those who are present. Once again, the replays on these things are just as powerful because if you weren't there during the live, you find out somehow spirit knew you were going to listen to the replay because your your thing will be brought into this space. So that is coming next week. Again, it's only $11 a month. You get a lot of other benefits as well, like these ways where I'm actually giving you exclusive content throughout the week. So check those things out. Tiffany's here. Tiffany is a modern mystic. It's low cost, high value. Yes, thank you, Tiffany. She's one of the modern mystics in the group. All right. Well, now I'm very excited to welcome my guest for this episode, Erika Alaura. She is an intuitive healer, channel, and transcendence coach, partnering people to experience not only unrecognizable transformation, but true transcendence. She draws on her extensive training and experience to incorporate multiple modalities, including psychic channeling, spiritual response therapy, past life clearing, and theta healing. Erika guides her clients to a lighter, clearer energy and a deepened connection to their own truth, wisdom, and intuition. Erika is a certified angel intuitive through Doreen Virtue, a practitioner and certified consultant of spiritual response therapy, and a certified theta healing practitioner and instructor. We're going to be talking about channeled soul clearings and subconscious belief work to align your being with your highest expression. So, welcome to the show, Erika.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you. I love the sound of you channeling Archangel Uriel. That sounds amazing.
Well, you can come if you like. You're welcome.
Well, incredible.
We had the best time, and, it really does kind of bring it's one of those things which I know because you're a channel,
Yeah.
that it's like you do you do channeling in groups actually before? Do you yeah, so when one
Yes.
person is receiving their message and the other people who are in the audience are listening, they're like, "Well, I mean, I don't have a question now because it came in that message." It's the magic, right?
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to look at all the folks that are here. Nice to see you, Tracy. Hello. And hi. I can't Fremont, California. I actually went to 8th grade in Fremont, California, but we moved after that. So welcome everyone.
Oh, wow.
Erica, I would love to hear all about you're doing such beautiful work. So much
Oh,
you have
thank you.
such prolific training. And as I said, we overlap in a lot of ways because I'm a channel, as where I said. I'm also a certified clinical hypnotherapist and I work in transpersonal transcendent work. So I'm excited for my heart to be exploded open by you. Would you like to tell everyone about the work you're doing and or your journey wherever you want to start?
Wow, it has been quite a journey. The work that I do with people has definitely transformed over the years. I think that as healers, when we get started, we gravitate toward different modalities. And when you practice over a long period of time, what ends up happening is everything kind of blends together, morphs together, and then you bring your own flavor to the work, and then it becomes your own signature style.
Yes.
And like a lot of healers, I really started from the client perspective. So I was born a psychic, but it wasn't really, no one gave it to me as a career option, right? So often we don't know what the heck we're supposed to do with this gift. And I really tried to fit in. I really tried to be normal, Tricia. I was working in corporate environments and, just trying to be a normal adult, but that didn't work. So eventually what happened for me was because I wasn't on the right path, because I wasn't really doing the work I was meant to do, I started to manifest a lot of physical issues. So adrenal fatigue,
Yeah.
panic attacks, had a lot of anxiety stuff coming up, and something was telling me you have to change. Something needs to change. And a series of synchronicities brought me on vacation in Florida, and I eventually met a woman who's doing the work that I'm doing now. And by working with her and her helping me get out of my own way, it allowed me to step into my gifts. And as I started to do that, everything in my life got better. Everything in my life got easier. It became really easy to see what my next step needed to be. And so having that experience was invaluable because that's really the work that I do with my own clients. So I call it course correction a lot.
Yes.
Um, People feeling like, there's just an area of my life. This is great, but I always just seem to have a problem with my love life, or
Mhm.
it's always stuck, or I always seem to have an issue with my career. I just can't seem to get it going in the direction that I want. And so what I do with people is work with them and remove the soul-based or unconscious obstacles that they have in those areas of life. So they're really living their ideal life. That's the goal.
We are here to live that ideal life, right? It's interesting. The ideal life is easier for us, as you mentioned, and
Yeah.
at the same time, it feels further away from us. There's a sort of paradox. It feels like we don't deserve it, or we have to reach or grasp for it. But I think it's just because it's hard being born into this world with as a completely open spirit and this little fragile shell around us, and everything does feel hard. So, how do your clients how do they can you talk about that transformation experience? That journey of, wow, really? I
Mm.
get to just live a life that I prefer and enjoy, and it's easy for me. That delicious experience that you've had. How many times have you seen your clients go through something that's their own unique way about it, but that transformation?
As almost as many clients as I've worked with.
Of
I mean,
course.
I started my practice in 2009, so it's
Mm,
been
mhm.
quite a journey.
Yeah,
What I think is the most fascinating about the transformation is that a lot of times people feel like they're being punished in some way, or
sure.
maybe I have bad karma, or maybe I did something wrong.
Mhm.
But actually, what happens is when you go deeper into someone's programming, what's really going on is that often we can have our own vows, oaths, agreements to show up
Yes.
for people in a certain way.
Mhm.
And what we're really doing is we're sacrificing what we want, or we believe that in order to be of service to others, we have to do that in a specific way, that we can't have all the things we want. We have to suffer, we have to struggle, we have to prop everybody else up, we have to sacrifice our journey, our health, our well being, our love
Mhm.
life, whatever it is. And so, what I do with clients is I work with them on a subconscious level. So we do a
Mhm.
lot of muscle testing. We find out what the subconscious mind believes. Sometimes we have agreements and obligations with our lineage.
Yeah.
Everyone experienced a certain thing, and on a DNA or on a soul level, we believe we have to also experience that hardship. And so, what happens is it keeps us very hemmed in this certain path, and then we feel like there's something wrong with me because this should be so much easier. Where really our subconscious is saying, nope, we have a vow, we have an agreement to suffer this way, or we have an agreement to stay with these people. We can't venture out. And so it will block you from moving forward. It will block you from taking the actions, or from seeing the opportunities that would take you where you really want to go. So it isn't because anyone is an idiot. It isn't because you're incompetent.
Mhm.
It's really usually that your unconscious mind or your soul has a perspective that in order for you to do what you're meant to do in this life, it has to be done in a very specific way. And so when you release those programs, what happens is that you up level or you upgrade in all of these different areas of your life, and you start to fulfill your purpose, but it's the way that you want it to be. It's in
Mhm.
alignment with your personality. And then
Mhm.
sometimes we realize in the work that, oh, I don't actually need to do that at all. Like, for
Yeah.
example, there are a lot of healers that have an unconscious belief that they're here to save the world, that they're here to
Yes.
save the planet.
All of them,
And
every single one of us.
and really, the planet doesn't need to be saved. Everyone's
Mhm.
having their own unique experience. And what can happen for people, and I'm sure you've seen this, is that this feeling, this pressure of I have to save the world feels so big, feels so, um, it just feels so overwhelming that a person won't even know how to get started. And then they sort of fizzle out and go backwards and say, it's like, it's just too much. Whatever I do, it's not going to be enough. And so I don't even want to get started. And that's another great thing that I
Mm.
work with clients, to release that so that they can really step into their gifts, work with the people that they're most aligned to work with, and not have that pressure on their shoulders.
Yes. Yes, that's good. Hey, for those of y'all who are here on the live, tell us about your experience either with this pressure to save the world, or actually, if you have any questions, if you're like, you know what, I notice a pattern that's about X, Y, and Z, pop it in the comments. We'd love to hear about, your experience in this. And I want to say hi to Mary and Kate, who are here now too. Hello, hello. Mary, I haven't seen you in a while. So, I actually did a series, gosh, I think it was 2 years ago. I may have taught a class and then put it on my YouTube channel in these different segments. And it was on vows, oaths, and covenants. And I kind of like drew out what those different ones might be.
Yeah.
And, another thing that a lot of healers have is a vow of poverty, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that was the old way that it was done. And it was just a different era.
Mhm.
And charity is one thing, but poverty, or a vow of not of basically the old way in old religions, and hedonism was considered pious, meaning where you don't experience any joy. Hedonism
Mhm.
was a sin, and hedonism was pious. And that's not, I mean, I don't want to comment on what we were doing then. Maybe maybe there was some purpose for it. From this perspective, it seems like it's not helpful. And so that starving oneself of either pleasure or abundance, that was somehow a value. Do you see that one? Is that a common one you see as well? And to
Oh,
have to clear that?
absolutely. Well, think about it. Savior, martyr, messiah, or guru programs. We
Yes.
have in religion, right? And even in history, if you even step out of religion in history, what happens with everyone in our past, in past generations? Everyone pretty much suffered and struggled in order to carve out a life.
Mhm.
We look at like a Christ archetype. There's an energy of deep suffering, death, and then eventual rebirth. And so it planted the seed in the collective that in order to learn and grow, we have to suffer and struggle. In
Mhm.
order to be close to the divine, we have to suffer and struggle. But when does love require suffering and struggling? It's not the same
Right.
frequency.
Yeah.
So, a lot of that, yes, absolutely. Old vows of celibacy, austerity, a really big one that I see with people, especially women. Vows or agreements to stay isolated, vows or
Mhm.
agreements to hide their gifts,
Yeah.
beliefs that if they really step into their power, if they really activate their psychic ability, they're going to be harmed, they're going to be killed. People in
The
their
witch wound.
life,
The
the
witch
witch
wound.
wound, people
Yeah.
in their
Mhm.
life will ostracize them and it won't
Mhm.
be safe. So,
Mhm.
all of the above is wonderful to release because it creates this inner resistance. All of those beliefs, all of those programs will impact what we believe we can and cannot do in our life on a deep unconscious level. And then when we try to take action or go toward what we consciously want, we get these feelings of dread or fear or even panic. And then we think, well, maybe it's the wrong thing. My intuition is telling me it's not safe, where really it's just the unconscious programming.
Mm. Yes. Mary is telling us about an experience. She says she has a pattern of feeling. She says, I have a pattern of feeling to help others above putting my well being first.
Yes,
Yeah.
vows of self sacrifice or any
Mhm.
type of sacrifice programming is
Yeah.
really common as well. And, it's very, I'm sure your audience, Tricia, is full of empaths and intuitives and
Yeah.
people who are just deeply gifted and may not even realize the extent of their gift. And that self-sacrifice is a really common one because if you're drawn to it in this lifetime, you've done it in a bazillion other lifetimes. I guarantee you it's not your
Mhm.
first time around with these gifts or abilities. And so a lot of the unresolved emotional energy from past lives is still in your point of attraction. It's still with you.
Mhm.
And so until that stuff is resolved and released, that's the type of unconscious programming that's running, and that's really the crux of the work that I do.
And it's actually just like how moving into your purpose it's easier on your instrument because it's what you're designed to do.
Right.
That it's actually not as it's actually a process that is entirely healing, when it's done correctly, because of course, uh, improperly trained people who would self-appoint them as practitioners to do something like this. I shudder sometimes when people just have anointed themselves a trauma coach and, oof, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
that a person could get re-traumatized.
Absolutely.
However, when it's done correctly with the right skill set, with the right awareness, the right resonance, it is just a matter of the process is releasing that which is already there. It's an injury that is being healed by the awareness right now. So it's not like the processing is introducing the emotional pain to you. It's releasing the emotional pain the second that you do it, it's getting better. So it's actually easier than we feel like it is from the place of it still being in the shadow or in the unconscious where we're trying to run from it. And you have so many things in which you are trained, like the theta healing, and those are powerful things that create miracles like that when we're ready for them, right?
Absolutely. When I'm working with someone and we go back and we review a past life that's very pertinent to what we're working on, we really look at, who were you, what happened, what was the harm that was done, and what is it that you're still holding on to from the experience. And often once we identify that, and so when I'm doing this, I'm working with a pendulum, I'm working with a series
Yeah.
of charts, I'm channeling information at the same time. There's a lot going on. But it's not necessary for someone to re-experience the trauma, re-experience the pain. And that's not
Hmm.
to say that sometimes when we go into these lifetimes, there isn't an emotional release, because often there is. Somebody might get a bit weepy, or there might be a deep feeling of relief that brings tears, because it's like this pressure cooker energy. And when you start to release those programs, there's this feeling of like, oh, thank gosh, I'm
Hmm.
not crazy. That makes so much sense. And people
Yeah.
feel a real deep sense of relief in their body and their physiology. And then, of course, that can impact whatever health issues somebody has going on as well. And that was
Hmm.
true for me when I was the client. So, all of those issues with adrenal fatigue and even hypothyroid and all of these things that were manifesting slowly started to heal as I was healing the programming.
There is, and hello, Yvette, and hello, Michelle. Again, if anybody like Mary shared with us her pattern of helping others above her own well-being, if you have any pattern you want to share with us, we'll hold space for you right now, and we'll talk about it, and we'll love it into the space where it is just being released. Yes, the adrenal fatigue. If you think about it, those our body is telling us that basically we aren't built to do the thing we're doing.
Right.
As I was going to bed last night, I had a major transformation. Well, I had my Chiron return in the last year. So, oof,
Right.
core wounds, wounded healer stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like and I not feel like I am. And also I can witness, I'm totally out of the post shadow of that as well. And the work, like yesterday, as I was going to bed, I said to my husband, I was like, do you want to hear what I did today? I did this, and this. I had this many clients. I also did a live meditation. And then I worked on this for 2 hours. I worked on this for 2 hours. I went on a walk. And I seriously, it was like packed.
Wow.
And he's like, why do you think you can do that? And I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to do that 5 days a week. I can do it probably 2 or 3, though. But a quarter of that, let's take me back to a couple of years ago, a quarter of that amount of work would have put me in bed. It would have hurt me. And
Yes.
it's all the right work, but if I would just line up the volume of what I did, and part of that, honestly, for me was that I have codependency that is, well, I had, how about that? I've healed it. So getting closer to doing the work that I'm doing, but having someone, a close relationship, not my husband, but having a close relationship that is draining me. It just
Hmm.
drains the pool of everything else that I am here to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm really pretty amazed at how much energy I have. And also I have a client who just released a relationship of 10 years, and it was actually a partner. And yeah, it was a toxic abusive relationship. And immediately, it's just been a couple of months. She's like, I'm surprised at how much energy I have, even though I'm still in the healing process. But, it's pretty remarkable and how quick it can work. We have Tiffany here saying, I apparently have a vow of poverty that needs to be released. Money has always been an issue since I was a kid, and it seems to be a never-ending struggle no matter what I do. Ooh, let's take some of those time binds off of them, Tiffany. It's okay to recognize it right now, but I would love for you to start to reframe it even as you're sharing this, that it has been, as I said, it has been, that is the past, but I am in the unfolding of it being released. Even if we, right, just start to ask the right questions on our own. What would you say Tiffany could do to whether, obviously working with you, but for herself, to help her to start to shift a pattern? How did you start to even get to the place where you knew that you needed the service, right?
Well, this is I love this topic because it can have a few different roots. So you could have, I mean, and it could, Tiffany, it could be all of the above, right? It could be it could be vows with an S of poverty. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
have people muscle test and they're holding thousands of vows
Oh,
of poverty. It's not just
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I mean, one would be enough, right? But vows of poverty. There could also be ancestral lineage programming where the ancestral lineage believes, hey, if we have too much money, people that we love, people in our community, people that we rely on, people who rely on us are going to hate us. We're going to be
Mm.
kicked out of our community if we have too much money. People are going to think that we're like those people, those horrible, corrupt people up there on the hill. And so we have a collective agreement in this family to never have too much. There may also be beliefs that if you have too much money, it's going to change your personality in some way and you won't recognize yourself or people won't recognize you. So think about it this way. Anything that we have that we would perceive as limiting, from the perspective of your subconscious mind, there's a really excellent logical reason for having it. It's just that your subconscious mind doesn't really have the ability to discern what's going to help you and what isn't. It just
Mm.
knows what you have been experiencing and it knows how to keep you safe. And it could be that your mind believes that as long as you are in lack, you're safe. If
Mm-hmm.
you have more than you need, okay, now we're in the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen to Tiffany if she has more money than she needs to pay the bills. Maybe something bad's going to happen. We can't have that. We have to keep her safe. So we're going to repel money. So there can be a lot of reasons, but they're from the perspective of your subconscious and your soul, it's going to seem like a great thing that you have poverty or that you don't have enough money.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff we need to change.
Mm-hmm.
Think about or look at your family. Is this an issue in your family? Is it both sides of the family or is it one side? How do you think that having lack has helped everyone? What has it strengthened? Cleverness, industriousness, determination, strength, perseverance. We get a lot of great virtues from our struggles. And so, what we need to tell your subconscious is, hey, I already have these virtues.
Mm-hmm.
I already
Yeah.
know how to survive. I already know how to be clever. I no longer need to have lack in order to strengthen these. So, what you can do, Tiffany, is really start to journal this stuff out and start to work on shifting the mindset, start to think about what you really want to bring in. And it's going to be baby steps, right? Because we can't go from like 50,000 a year to 500,000 a year without it being overwhelming. So we want to start bringing in, showing your subconscious it's safe for you to have abundance. And so maybe that means you go to TJ Maxx and you buy yourself a new top that's affordable. You start giving to yourself. You start showing your subconscious, hey, I'm worthy of receiving. It's safe for me to receive. Nothing bad's going to happen if I spend this money on myself. I don't need to sacrifice any longer to prove that I'm worthy.
Oh, that's so, what a great prescription that we can do today in the home. You know, we call them, and as a hypnotherapist, we call it known associations. And, these are developed in this life, when, let's say, um, for just to take a very simple example, money doesn't grow on trees, that kind of thing. Or if we take something like relationship, oh, that boy is being so mean to you because he likes you. Now we've made an association that mean means like, and it isn't it's logical in one sense, like you said, but it's not truly high logic. It's just an association. This happened, and this was also happening, and now these things are how I stay alive because I survived
Mhm.
it. That's what this, the simplicity, the literalness of the subconscious mind. And so
Right.
we need to decouple those, as you said. I had just a client the other day tell me that the fight flight response, her high anxiety, has made her successful. And I said, "Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. I mean,
Mhm.
those two things happened at the same time, but in the conscious state, she resisted me. She's like,
Mhm.
no, it has made me successful. It has. And I'm like,
Mhm.
maybe, do you want to work on it?" I had to do a little come to Jesus. And I'm like, Is that the belief that is helping you? Is it helping
Right.
you in your life?
Yeah. Is that your highest expression? No.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We moved it along a little bit, but it took us a few minutes. It really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
So we have a
When there's
couple
a
more.
really ingrained pattern,
Yeah.
the subconscious mind will really kick out and resist. I have had fully grown, mature, very, very successful people have a full-on temper tantrum and even start crying and even turn into like huffy puffy teenagers. And it's because the subconscious mind is trying to protect the
Yeah.
belief because it's
Yes.
kept the person safe. So you
Ooh,
have to sometimes do a little bit of that,
melting it
bargaining back and
down.
forth and like, is this
Yes.
really what do you really want to hold on to this?
And also I want to share, sorry to interrupt. I'm
Okay.
excited because this is the conversation that we love to have. I also had this, the spirit told me once, they're like, yeah, when you start to poke at one of those, let's just call them beliefs, they're not only there to keep you safe, they're made of safety fighting energy. So if you poke at it, its whole
Mhm.
job is to fight for
Right.
life. So it's
Right.
supposed to fight for its own life to
Yeah.
save your life. So if you feel that resistance, you're really onto something, actually. It's a really good sign. It's literally made of
Absolutely.
survival energy. So it will
Right.
try to survive to
Love
keep
that.
you alive. Kate says the pattern of remaining hidden feels familiar. Witch wound for
Mhm.
safety. Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually, the first past life that I remembered after being awakened, metaphysically to my psychic gifts was about being burned at the stake. And it was, I was a 27-ish year old woman who seemed to be in like provincial, Mediterranean area, and probably around somewhere in the medieval times. And I was single, which was already heresy, a 27-year-old single woman.
Big red flag back then.
Huge. That's enough. That's a witch on its own. And yeah, I was, was an herbalist, I was a kitchen witch, a medicine keeper and
Mhm.
everything. And I had animals, which, all my familiars. Oh, and they in the I didn't experience it fully, but I feel the compassion, and I feel the thing that that triggers me in the things that stop me sometimes. But anyway, they strapped to me a couple of my animals.
Mm.
Ugh, in order to woo, uh, it was
Yeah.
something else. So, but
Yeah.
I felt a big release of that. The past lives are so much more heightened than whatever's going on here. Like they're a hyperbole of this, and I think that makes it helpful. Like movies are exaggerations, of
Mhm.
if we're to be able, if we do learn a lesson. Sometimes they're not this, and sometimes the movies are real life.
Very
But some,
true.
hopefully, art can be a hyperbole or an exaggeration.
Mhm.
And we have also Michelle here says, I have a close relationship that's not best for me. He drinks too much, but isn't abusive at all. Well, is he though? I get what you mean though, Michelle. I just have baggage around alcoholism. How about
Mhm.
that one, Erica?
Yeah, in relationships like that, one of the first things that I look at is if on a soul level you have a vow, a contract, an oath, or an agreement to act as a guardian angel or a healing
Mm,
presence for the person in your life. And that can come from experiences where we believe that in another lifetime we harmed that person, and the guilt and unforgiveness that we're holding on ourselves acts as this kind of binder where we believe, okay, I have to follow this person around lifetime after lifetime and try to save them, try to help them, try to rehabilitate them, try to make sure that they're okay, try to lead them into the light, try to be their healer. And it becomes a very self-sacrificing experience. So that's usually the first thing that I do is I check that and then I release it so that you're not having to show up in that way. And there are some people who show up that way in all of their relationships. And that's where we
mm,
get that tie in with the self sacrifice, the belief that my real value is not me, it's what I do for others, it's how I take care
yes.
of others. Because we've done this healing work in so many lifetimes, it's such a massive part of our identity. And so to be able to shift that for someone, to be able to release the programming, the toxic or the negative or the discordant programming that's binding someone together with someone that's really not the best for them, it allows all of that to fall away. And then what's left in the relationship is love.
Yes.
And then you get to choose for you if it's really aligned with you, if the relationship's really aligned with you or not. Obviously, it sounds like there's a second level of this around alcoholism.
Mhm.
So it might be that there's some lineage or there's some soul-based alcoholism programs that need to be released, because we want to wrap up that theme. You've probably played this out lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And so it's like, how much do you need to suffer in order to get it? Not very much. It's like time to wrap it up. So it's like work
Wrap
with
it up.
anyone you can to shift that, because it's sort of like we get into this weird looping pattern as beings where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I need to experience and really understand what this abuse thing is. So let me experience it from every single possible angle I can. And it's like, you don't need a PhD in abuse. You don't need a PhD in alcoholism. Like, let's get the show on the road. I'm all about getting the show on the road. We want to move forward so that you can really have your best life.
I love that. I love lightening it up. It helps us to not take things so seriously.
Yeah.
Two different periods in history, in our history, kind of bubble to the surface. Maybe this is intuitive about this specific situation or someone else's here. The first one that showed up is how in the Roman Catholic Church, because I've actually visited. I I remember when my old career, I was a mixologist, and I visited the Chartreuse monastery and distillery. And these monks have vows of silence. They do get to, actually, and that's another one, right? Vows of
Mm-hmm.
silence, people who can't speak their truth.
Yeah.
Vows of silence and poverty and sobriety. And you're like, wait, they actually, the way that this monastery makes this elixir, but their sobriety actually is, they have a vow of sobriety, but they take 1 tablespoon of the elixir every week so they can
Mm,
remember the gift that it is. And also
interesting.
sobriety, it's like, just don't get too drunk too, because there was one of the monks who was retired who had lunch with us and had several glasses of wine. But at any rate, this emphasis on who's allowed to partake and who isn't. And I don't know what it was like for the female clergy, nuns probably, versus the male, and if there was that kind of thing going on. The other thing that comes to mind is in around the 1920s and 30s of in this country, when up to the point where we had prohibition. And what was really interesting about prohibition is that it actually sparked a lot of alcoholism, as we know. But part of the reason was just ignorance, because previous to around that time, people were drinking a very low alcohol beer because the alcohol actually sterilized the water. They didn't have clean water. And that was what they drank. And you'd have to drink a lot of it in order to get, drunk. But then spirits came in, distilled spirits, and they didn't really know the difference. And it came in because of prohibition. And so men started to overdrink, and, women were third class citizens and they were beaten and everything. It was because of the rampant alcoholism that women actually, it was prohibition that facilitated women binding together in order to get the right to vote. The
Right.
suffragettes actually got us to release this terrible thing called prohibition and got us in the voting booth. And so again, this disparity between someone is really drunk and someone has to do some savior work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there was a couple of time periods that came up for me that could
Yeah,
be,
very interesting.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff to
absolutely.
explore there. Let's see. Tiffany says that all resonates so well. So you help
Oh,
Tiffany a lot. Thank you.
yay.
And Kate says, my rebel, if not addressed, will protect and defend these unconscious beliefs.
Kate's a type A spiritual warrior. I
She
love it.
is.
Yeah, I love the witch wound topic. It's so
Mhm.
fascinating. It actually comes up so much in my work that in every first session that I do with a client, I look at the number of lifetimes where they were hurt, harmed, or killed for being a spiritual teacher, a
Yeah.
healer, a channel, an oracle, psychic, whatever it is, anything where there's a spiritual component to service oriented work. And it's amazing. There are people that hundreds of thousands of lifetimes, I'm not kidding, where they've been hurt, harmed, or killed for doing the work. And so what happens in that case is you have someone who is incredibly gifted and does not feel safe being able to embody the gifts. And it's a very hard position to be in, because you just feel so disconnected. There's a deep need to actualize self and to really step into who you are, but you can't seem to do it. And then again, as I said before, someone will feel like, well, maybe it's the wrong time, or maybe I'm not meant to, or maybe, I'm not supposed to, because I have such a strong feeling of it's unsafe. So it's something that I work with in at the very, very beginning of working with a client. All that stuff needs to be moved out of the way so we can really go deeper.
I think it's being called out of us collectively too. This
For
stuff
sure.
because we need the divine feminine to be taken out of the closet. We need her voice, we need her power,
Yeah.
we need her, you know, and it's not necessarily only people who are biologically or born women. It's in a
Correct.
lot of ways. And we have Cheryl. Cheryl says, "What about attracting a great life partner and having happy relationships?" That's something that is a pattern that's not a positive pattern that you're not having, Cheryl. I would, and that might be a vow of celibacy, as you mentioned before.
Mhm.
There's sometimes also it could be like a covenant that you made to actually not marry or something along those lines. I've noticed some of those, but yeah, go ahead. What do you think, Erica, about that one?
Yeah, it can be that there's a belief that you're not allowed to have a happy
Yeah.
relationship, that maybe you have to have the same relationship as your ancestors, that in this family attract in a certain type of man, or we only attract in men who sort of make us do everything, or make us be in charge, or make us run the masculine energy. And our unconscious belief is that it actually keeps us safe and independent and in
Mhm.
our power if we're with somebody who doesn't really show up. Because there can be a lineage belief that if we're with somebody that really shows up, who's in his power, he's going to take our power. He's going to bring us into a lifestyle where we feel servitude, where we feel like
Mm.
our autonomy is taken. And it may have nothing to do with the actual reality, but that's the unconscious perception. So we feel like, oh, why do I keep choosing these guys that are disconnected and don't show up and want me to do everything? And it's really our own pattern that we haven't recognized from a lineage or from a soul perspective. There are also women who have a lot of beliefs that, and men too, but I get this more with women, that if I'm in a happy, joyful, chemistry filled, passionate relationship, it's going to pull me away from my work. It's going to pull
Oh
me
yeah.
away from the other things that I need to be doing. It's going to I've even had people say, it's going to derail my life. I'm going to get so absorbed in my relationship that I'm going to lose my identity. And so
Mhm.
subconscious trying to keep us safe. Nope, we can't have that. It's going to derail us. It's going to take us in a direction that we don't want to go. So we'll just not see these guys. We won't see these possibilities. And then we'll think there's just nobody out there.
Yeah.
But really, when you change the programming, and this is really the best part for me, is that when we change the programming, we change your frequency. And when we change your
Mhm.
frequency, we change what you attract in. And we change what you attract in, you start attracting in what you want. And so you're really receiving from your feminine energy. You're not
Mhm.
running around trying to find it. You're not running around trying to take all these actions that exhaust you. You're just a match to
Yeah.
it with ease. And that's the goal.
Wow, yes. It's like reprogramming a computer. I mean, why do you think we
Absolutely.
made computers the way that
Exactly.
we did? We made them in
Mhm.
our image.
Right.
And
Yeah.
what if it could be that simple or technical? And this person, it says VTARF, so maybe it's Tara. I had a very dysfunctional mom and had her mom sort of all times,
Mhm.
left me emotionally craving all kinds of love and care and affection, which I probably carried to my wonderful relationship. It sounds like
Mhm.
though maybe you have a lot of awareness around it. And that's something else that is, again, could be an old vow or an old contract, because if we're talking especially about women, that if the elderly parent or the ailing parent needed caretaking, you weren't, in some cultures, of the past, you weren't allowed to get married because you had to just be that caretaker. Then that's something else that could be in a part of someone's pattern.
Absolutely. There could also be old unconscious beliefs that you're actually married to your mom. It's not a romantic thing, it's a soul thing. And so it's
Yeah.
like your unconscious and your soul believes that you're actually married to her, that you have to experience her in all of her glory, and that you have to go through whatever abusive experiences need to be endured in order to stay in that connection. The other thing that you could do with that, though, is look at, having a mom like this may not be my conscious choice. Like, if I had to choose right now, maybe I wouldn't have had that type of mom. But what did having this type of mom teach me? What did I learn from it? What did it shore up in me? What strengths do I have
Mhm.
having had this mom? And it might just be learning the real nature of love, that
Yeah.
that's not what love is. And then when you did get into your relationship with your partner, it was like, okay, I already know this style of love I don't want to experience. And so let me do the opposite. Let me lean into what love really is. So when in every challenging or difficult or discordant situation, there are always learnings, there's always awareness, we
Mhm.
always get something from it. So we just want to unpack, what are the gifts, what did you really learn, and is there any place in your being where you think you have to keep experiencing that? What's the benefit? You don't need it any longer, let it go.
Right,
Yeah.
because we want to make sure we take the gold from it. This morning I woke up with a little bit of a stiff neck, and I was doing some yoga, and I was like, okay, wait, I want to get quiet. It's not only stiff, it's like, and so I was like, okay, it's a pain in my neck. What are you telling me, pain in the neck? And I'm feeling my neck, and it goes, this is your mom. And I was like, oh my God, I did feel like all the time when I was little, my mom was such a pain in my neck, like putting pressure on me to do this, that, and the other thing. And it was just like neck, 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 neck. It was common. I know a lot of kids feel that way. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have been doing that to myself this week." So big time. I've been my own pain in my neck with the voice that is so similar to my mother's, and the pressures and the everything. And so I just took a moment while I was still doing yoga, and I just took the learning that I had from that I don't need pressure in order to be in integrity and to move with integrity, and the things will get done when I am able to be in my most vital self, and my body being whole and healed and comfortable and flexible and served and nurtured and nourished. That's going to actually get the things done. So it started to relax a lot. So
Good. That's
yeah,
great.
very good.
We
Well,
have
this was
such an amazing ability to heal ourselves. We
me
really
too.
do. Yeah. So don't give your power away. I mean, work with whomever you're drawn to, but know that you too have the ability to heal yourself. Just sometimes we need help. We have some blind spots and
Of
we
course.
need some help to really get deeper, but don't underestimate your own gifts.
And I think it's lovely that we need help sometimes, because
Yeah.
right, then we learn something from one
Yeah.
another. And of course, as the healer, you learn so much from your clients. It's amazing. So it's good on both
Yeah.
parties.
Yes, it's a
Eric, and
gift.
this is incredible. This has been such an incredible conversation.
Yeah.
And thank you for all of the support and advice you gave to the people that are here on the live broadcast, and I'm sure to those who are watching and listening to the replay. How can people work with you? What are the offers and the different ways that people can experience this incredible service and healing that you offer?
Oh, thanks. Well, my website is erikaalaura.com, and I do individual sessions. I have package offerings for people who want to work with me over a 3 or 6 month period of time. Sometimes people really want to go deep and they want clearing and healing around their goals. So, there's the healing that we do related to the past and what we've already experienced in our childhood or through our teenage years. And then the other way that I work with people is they say, okay, here's my list of goals. This is really what I want to step into. And then we work together to release all of the blocks that they have to those goals. So, great way to work with me is that way. Or I have a membership community called The Womb.
Oh,
And I do weekly energy clearings for my community. We do full moon live clearings. I put a lot of astrology information and different things that really interest me in the womb community. And so that's another way to connect with me.
wow. So many wonderful offers and just a beautiful container that you create in all of your world. So I want to thank
Thank
you
you.
for the work that you're doing on our beautiful world. So very valuable to us. Ooh, before I let you go, I want to say just last night, my husband told me about he heard from Jordan Peterson, who is, I think, a neurobiologist. He's a podcaster and he's like, in that intellectual community. Although I think he also annoys, he like challenges people. Let's say that. But Jordan Peterson said that it's a moral obligation for us to basically live our highest service, our highest purpose. It's actually a moral obligation. And I liked that this, I if I may be a little bit rude, this kind of crusty science guy said that. you
Yeah,
know?
I actually
Oh,
really
you love
love
him.
Jordan
Okay, good. You know
Peterson.
who I'm talking about?
I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan. He's incredible,
Mhm.
and he's right. It
Yeah.
is.
But
Yeah.
he's
And
technically, is he an atheist or an agnostic though? So he's not in.
no, he isn't.
Oh,
No, and
wait, okay.
he's I believe he's a clinical psychologist. He's
Okay, great. Thank you.
incredibly brilliant, but
Mhm.
he isn't an atheist, and he's deeply spiritual, but he's
Oh,
very
Sam Harris is.
practical. Oh, Sam
Harris.
Harris.
No, I'm talking about Jordan Peterson said it,
Oh,
but I'm
okay.
getting him conflated with Sam Harris
Oh,
because I know the two of
right.
them kind of debate. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's really fascinating, but it is a moral imperative, but it's also going to be you living your best life.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's what we want to do. I don't know about you guys, but aren't you sick of the suffering and the struggling and
Mhm.
everything has to be so hard and arduous and you have to
Yeah.
process things for 3 years? Like I'm done with that. I'm just all about doing this work and moving the programs and up leveling and feeling that we can really be who we are meant to be. That's why we are here. So that's going to bring the most joy, and you deserve to be joyful.
Mm. That's just beautiful. Well, thank you again, everyone. This is Erika Alaura. This has been just a phenomenal time. I really appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, and maybe you come on again some other time.
Tricia, I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun, and happy holidays to everyone.
Yes, yes. Happy solstice, holiday, Yule, all of that as we're doing that today. And what a great topic to carry us into the new light. Thank you, Erika.
Thank you.
So, everyone, thank you again for being here live if you were here live. And also, I just want to remind you to check the show notes because we have all of Erica's information there and some other, different offers that I have going on. And this is something that you can find if you join my newsletter. That's the best way to make sure that you are able to come join us live. And of course, you're listening on the podcast. That's a great way. And I think we should listen to these things 2 times. There was so much juicy golden advice that Erika gave us. So follow, like, subscribe, share, leave comments on on the replay, and also if you're listening to this on the podcast, please do leave us a review. That would help us so much. So we'll see you again really soon. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.